Welcome back to Final Whistle. David Giacomino alongside Kevin Walsh. As always, how you doing, Kev?
Doing good today, man. Excited. This weekend we got Manhattan coming, so a long week ahead of us till the Friday comes, but I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah. And, baseball is just starting up. It is that time of year. Both the Mets and the Yankees have reported to spring training. I gotta ask. We gotta talk about this. This is the topic. Mets, Yankees, always a big debate between people. We'll start with the Yankees. That biggest question's A-Rod. He reported.
Of course.
He suddenly reported without telling anybody. What do you expect from A-Rod this season?
I mean, as far as numbers, I'm not looking for A-Rod to be the MVP. I'd like to see him kind of, he's not Derek Jeter, but a Derek Jeter-esque role. I want him just to be a leader, handle the media to the best of his ability, and, take younger guys underneath his wing and, kind of do the best he can to just have this team be mature in every aspect. He's not going to win MVP. He's not going to play every day. I just hope that he could be mature about it and kind of, be a leader for this team. Obviously, the first time in a long time, number 2 isn't going to be taking that field. So, it's going to take a lot of people to step up, and I think he could be big in that. He's a World Series champion, and that's really what I want to see from A-Rod.
Yeah, when he reported, he was very low-key, and that's not what people expected, He was just kind of minding his own business. I like what I've seen from him the first 2 days, and I kind of want to see the Yankees. They're not going to do this, but I kind of want to see him give them the chance. Because you're really seeing the Yankees have come out publicly and said he's not up for this third base job. He's strictly being a DH. And it really sounds like he's just going to face left-handed pitching. And if that's the case, he's not going to have a lot of at-bats. So I kind of want to see him. I want the Yankees to let him try, let him fight for a position. Because maybe you never know. He's still Alex Rodriguez. He might have some left in him. And he did have a year off, so he's rested, fully healthy. And I want to see them give him a chance.
I think at the end of the day, if you're doing well, you're going to play. And the Yankees have a lot of damage control in this situation. They're just trying to really do whatever they can to get the media off their backs, and that's what they think will be best. But I'm telling you right now, if A-Rod's on a 15-game hitting streak, they're not going to say, take a seat. He's going to play.
Hey, but that's the big question. If he gets on a good roll, do they perhaps sit Chase Headley, or do they just strictly make him be a DH?
Well, I think A-Rod isn't there for defensive purposes at this point in his career. He's not there for to snag balls off the hot corner.
Yeah, but then it goes into the question: you can't give a McCann a day off, you can't give a Teixeira a day off if A-Rod is locked in that DH position. So it's a lot of goes into these decision making, and it all goes on A-Rod. Is he going to perform? Is he not going to perform? If he does not, then it's going to make the decision real easy for the Yankees just to sit him, because they don't really care about the money. And staying with the Yankees though, going into this season, what do you think is the main big factor that's going to bring them success if they have it?
I think it's going to have to be the pitching. This isn't one of the more prominent offenses, especially as far as the Yankee would hope. A healthy Tanaka could equal 20 wins, and if the bullpen behind who I think is going to be an emerging star in the league, Betances, if he can, help shut down the late innings, and Tanaka can be a 20-win guy, and just the rest of the pieces can play up to par. I think that'll be very big for the Yankees this year.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go. The bullpen needs to be the strength of this team because, like you said, the hitting is not what it used to be. The hitting is not a big strength to this team. If their starting pitching can go at least 6 innings, they can have somewhat of the Royals did last year. Starting pitching goes 6 innings, then their bullpen goes 7, 8, 9. But like I said, you already touched on Betances. They're going to push him into that 9th inning role. It's a very different role than the 8th inning. A lot of guys have a lot of success in the 8th inning, but then it doesn't transfer to the 9th inning. So you got to see how he's going to perform in the 9th inning. If he does not, then some question marks raised. You could always throw Andrew Miller into that 9th inning, but I think he'll be all right in the 9th inning. It's just everything relies on this bullpen, and it's got to perform. And shifting over to the New York Mets as the Queens team, the local team, as we like to call them.
Queens.
The big question mark is David Wright and Curtis Granderson. Do you expect a bounce back year from them, or do you see a continuation of decline from them?
I think David Wright is a player. He's a he's a big star in this league, and I think Wright isn't going to. He's going to bounce back. You know, I expect good things from David Wright, even as a Yankee fan. That's a guy you can never hate. Kind of feel like, you know, not as on larger scale. Don't want him to be crucified by Yankee fans, but you know, he's your Derek Jeter. You know, you kind of got to respect him, like what he does. Granderson, on the other hand, I still feel like you guys overpaid for him, and I really. He's going to strike out a bunch of times, and I think that's kind of a well-known factor. You're just hoping that moving in that outfield fence is going to be able to produce a little more home runs, which it might, but if it doesn't, he's kind of a waste like he was last season.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give some credit over to they moved the fences in for Curtis Granderson. It helps David Wright as well, but I think they're both gonna have a little bit of bounce back here, not as much as people think, but I think they're both gonna bounce back. David Wright, he was injured for most of last season. He got injured in early June, so he wasn't really at full strength throughout most of the year, and he played hurt, which says a lot about him. He's always willing to risk his body. He's the captain of the team. He wants to lead by example. I think he's going to have a bounce-back year. He's going to have an all-star season. I think he's going to have a good year. Curtis Granderson, on the other hand, I think he's going to have a bounce-back year too, because last season he would have had
Dave.
He would have had 9 more home runs, okay? He would have had 9 more. Not to say that he's going to have 40 this year, but I think he'll have a nice 25 home run season. He's going to bat 220 like he always does. He's never known for his batting average. But I think he'll have a decent season, a little bit better than last season. But nonetheless, I think they both have better years than last season. But, again, same question with the Mets. What do you think is the key factor for them?
I think it's health, and it's really almost in a long-term term. I mean that. Obviously, you want to take it one season at a time. For the first time in a long time, I think Mets fans are really excited, and they have the right to be. But I still think, Harvey, that's your guy, that's your race, and you have to, it's nerve-wracking whenever someone's coming back from an injury. And then also, I'm actually a really big fan of Mr. DeGrom. I think he's awesome, and you saw him kind of get shut down at the end of the year. So there's concerns for their top 2 guys, and I think that's really going to be the key. If those 2 come out and they deal like they're capable of, that's huge for the Mets. But if one of them, or knocking on wood, even as a Yankee fan, they get hurt, both of them, it could be a real rough season again.
Yeah, and the strength of this team is their starting pitching, as everybody knows. And I think they need to just run behind it. And bearing an injury, nobody wants to see this team get injured because Matt Harvey, it crushed them last season. They were all ready to make a run last season, and then this injury happens, and then they're like, oh no, this can't be happening. But if they really get behind this starting pitching, and they're gonna need the bats to play above their expectation level or not peak to it, because the pitching can't do it alone. They can't win 1-0, 2-0 games. So the hitting has gotta have some way with it. It's gotta have some balance to it. So if the hitting can have some type of balance and the starting pitching is as expected, they could have a good season. But there's a lot of ifs involved in this. They need a lot of things to go their way for everything they want to happen. So we'll see what happens here. But going into overtime here, final question of the day. This is prediction time. What is your prediction for both of these teams, Mets and Yankees? Give your prediction.
So this is tough because normally the Yankees sign like 3 guys for $100 million apiece, and you say, how could they not make the playoffs? And they didn't do that. And then the Mets are always like, yeah, well, they're terrible, so they're not going to make the playoffs, and then they have a lot of potential. To be honest, everyone I think is buying early into the Red Sox. I don't think they're as good as advertised. I think the Yankees still have a good chance. I think I could see them getting in as a wild card. The Mets, I believe, are in a tougher division. I think the Marlins make a lot of good moves, and I think the Nationals are going to be as scary as they come. To be honest, I think the Mets are going to have a good year, but I don't know if playoffs yet.
I have to somewhat agree with that. The Yankees, like I said, a lot of things need to go their way for success. They need players to play like the back of their baseball card. What I mean by that is the stats on the back of the baseball card. They need them to play like that because the last couple of seasons they've had a decline, and they just need their players to get back on track. And I don't think that's gonna happen. I have them at 80 wins. A little bit under 500, but not 1 game. But I have them at 80 wins. The division will help them. It's not as strong, but like they play the Rays a bunch of times. The Rays are just really bad, so
Yeah.
that's gonna help them out. But I have them at 80 wins, and the Mets, like I said, a lot of things need to go their way as well. You know, they need players to peak at their position. The hitting, Lucas Duda, they need him to have another strong year, 30 home runs. They need him to stay there, but you don't know. You can't predict what's going to happen. I have the Mets at 86 wins and
Of course.
fighting for the wild card. I don't know if they're going to make the wild card, but we'll see. You know, it's going to be tough. Like I said, the pitching needs to go their way, and I sense, you think I'm wrong.
I just think it's always I feel like, you make a purpose to predict 80 wins for the Yankees and 86
Come
for the
on.
Mets.
Are you kidding?
It's your purpose in life. I really feel like, as a Yankee fan, you're like, if you don't make the playoffs, it's unsuccessful.
Well-
the Mets, we don't need the playoffs. If we finish better than the Yankees, that's World Series stuff right there.
Hey, it's a step in the right direction. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it. And right now, but in all seriousness, the Mets need to make that next step and be in contention for that wild card. That's why I have them at 86 wins. I don't know if they're making it into the playoffs because maybe the second wild card. I don't know what teams are going to be like. Like you said, the Marlins are there. The West is very strong this year. The Padres, the Dodgers, the Giants, as always. So it's going to be tough. They have the Nationals in their division, one of the best teams in baseball. So it's going to be tough for the Mets. But I still think they can get to 86 wins.
I just think it's a little upsetting as a Yankee fan to not sit here and be like, yeah, playoffs, obviously.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since that's since that's been the case.
It's going to be very different to if they are both not in or if they both are in, because they are playing in September this season, the Mets and the Yankees, and it could be very, very exciting atmosphere if both of these teams are playing a meaningful game in September, because we haven't seen that in a long time.
They will go together and
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I'm not going when Harvey's pitching though, because then you're gonna get we'll go when Tanaka's pitching.
Oh, okay. But Harvey against Tanaka, we'll see what happens.
All right, yeah, we will.
That's all the time we have for this week's Final Whistle. I'm David Giacomino alongside Kevin Walsh. Have a good night, folks.